You spent thousands of dollars on a home theater system with an AV receiver, quality speakers, and a powerful subwoofer, but it still sounds flat, weak, and nothing like what you heard in the demo room. Before you blame your equipment or start shopping for upgrades, I need to tell you something that will either frustrate or relieve you. Your receiver isn't broken, and your speakers aren't disappointing. 5 critical settings in your AV receiver are configured completely wrong, and they're strangling the sound quality you already paid for. I'm about to show you exactly which settings to fix and how to unlock performance you didn't know your system had. Before we dive into these specific settings that are sabotaging your audio, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you're tired of underwhelming sound from expensive gear. Comment below and tell me what AV receiver you're using right now and what sound problems are frustrating you most. Why factory defaults kill performance? Let me start by explaining why your receiver's default settings are working against you. When manufacturers configure AV receivers at the factory, they're optimizing for safety, compatibility, and broad appeal, not for your specific room, your specific speakers, or optimal performance. They need the receiver to work acceptably in every possible scenario, from tiny apartments to massive home theaters with cheap speakers or expensive ones, driven by people who will never touch a settings menu. The result is that factory defaults are conservative compromises. They prioritize not breaking anything over maximizing performance. Power is limited to save energy. Base management defaults to safe settings that won't blow cheap speakers. Calibration is absent because they can't calibrate for a room they've never measured. Processing modes are set to generic options that work okay for everything but excel at nothing. This approach prevents disasters but guarantees mediocrity. Your receiver is probably not broken, it's just configured like a one-size-fits-all product instead of a tuned audio system. The hidden sound quality everyone talks about isn't actually hidden, it's just locked behind settings that most people never change because they don't know they should. Let me show you exactly which settings are wrong and what they should be instead. Setting 1. Eco Mode, stealing your power. The easiest win, and the one that will make you immediately angry, is Eco Mode or Power Saving Mode. Most AV receivers ship with some form of energy-saving feature enabled by default. This makes sense from an environmental and regulatory standpoint. The receiver passes energy efficiency standards, and the manufacturer can advertise green credentials. But Eco Mode achieves power savings by limiting the receiver's output capability. When Eco Mode is active, the receiver reduces power to the amplifier section. It might cut maximum output by 10 to 20%, or it might dynamically reduce power during demanding passages to keep overall consumption down. The result is that during loud action scenes or bass-heavy music, the receiver can't deliver full power. The sound feels compressed, lacking impact and dynamic punch. You turn the volume up to compensate, but it never quite delivers that theater-like authority you're expecting. The fix is absurdly simple. Go into your receiver's setup menu, find Eco Mode or Power Saving Mode, and turn it off completely. The power consumption difference is minimal for most people, maybe $10 to $20 per year in electricity costs. But the performance difference is immediately noticeable. Dynamics improve, bass hits harder, and the system has headroom to handle peaks without strain. This single setting change can make your receiver sound like you upgraded to a more powerful model. Setting 2. Calibration done wrong. Most modern AV receivers include automatic calibration systems like Odyssey, Yipow, Dirac Live, or proprietary room correction. These systems use a microphone to measure your room's acoustics and optimize settings for your specific space. This is genuinely useful technology that can dramatically improve sound quality by correcting for room modes, speaker positioning, and acoustic issues. But only if you run it correctly, and most people don't. The most common mistake is terrible microphone placement during calibration. The system tells you to place the microphone at ear height in your main listening position, but people get lazy. They rest it on the couch cushion, which puts it 6 to 8 inches below ear level. They place it against the couch backrest, blocking sound from behind. They hold it in their hand and move around during measurement. All of these create inaccurate measurements, and the receiver applies corrections based on bad data. Here's how to calibrate properly. Use a tripod, microphone stand, or stable stack of books to position the calibration microphone at exact ear height when you're sitting normally in your main seat. Make sure nothing is around or behind the mic blocking sound. Turn off air conditioning, fans, and any noise sources. The room should be silent. Then run the full calibration routine without touching anything. If your system measures multiple positions, place the mic in different seating locations but always at ear height and unobstructed. After calibration completes, don't just accept the results blindly. Go into the manual settings and verify what the system detected. Check speaker distances to ensure they're reasonable. If it says your front left speaker is 20 feet away when it's actually 10 feet, something went wrong and you should recalibrate. Check levels to make sure they're balanced. These simple verification steps catch errors that would otherwise ruin your sound. Setting 3. Speaker size confusion destroying bass. This is one of the most misunderstood settings in home theater, and getting it wrong ruins bass quality for millions of people. In your AV receiver's speaker configuration, you'll see options to set each speaker as large or small. Most people assume this refers to physical size. They have big tower speakers, so they set them to large. They have smaller bookshelf speakers, so those get set to small. This is completely wrong and creates terrible bass performance. In AV receiver terminology, large means the speaker receives full-range audio, including deep bass below 80 Hz. Small means bass below the crossover frequency is redirected to the subwoofer. The setting isn't about speaker size, it's about bass management. Even massive tower speakers with multiple woofers should usually be set to small in a system with a subwoofer, because your dedicated subwoofer handles deep bass far more effectively than any main speaker can. When you set speakers to large, the receiver sends them full-range bass that they struggle to reproduce cleanly. Tower speakers might have 8-inch woofers that can move some air, but they can't match a dedicated 12-inch subwoofer in a tuned enclosure. The result is muddy, boomy bass that lacks precision and impact. The main speakers are working hard trying to reproduce deep bass, distorting slightly and losing clarity in the mid-range where dialogue lives. The correct setting for almost every speaker in a system with a subwoofer is small. Yes, even your expensive tower speakers. Set everything to small and let your crossover setting determine where bass is split. This allows your main speakers to focus on clean mid-range and treble while your subwoofer handles the deep bass it's designed for. The result is tighter, cleaner bass, and clearer dialogue. Setting 4. Crossover frequency making or breaking integration. The crossover frequency works hand in hand with speaker size settings. It determines the point where bass is split between your main speakers and subwoofer. Set too low and your main speakers struggle with bass they can't handle. Set too high and bass becomes localizable, meaning you can tell where your subwoofer is instead of bass feeling integrated into the soundstage. The standard recommendation is 80 Hz for most home theater speakers. This is Dolby's recommendation, Fitz's standard, and what most calibration systems default to. 80 Hz is low enough that bass feels integrated and non-directional, but high enough that typical bookshelf and tower speakers don't strain trying to reproduce it. For the vast majority of systems, 80 Hz is the right answer. However, some speakers benefit from different crossover points. Small satellite speakers with 4-inch drivers might sound better crossed at 100 Hz or even 120 Hz, taking pressure off those tiny drivers. Large towers with substantial bass capability might sound good crossed at 60 Hz, though this is less common. The key is experimentation. Start at 80 Hz and listen critically. If bass sounds disconnected from the rest of the sound, try raising the crossover. If your speakers sound strained during bass-heavy content, raise it more. Setting 5. Distance and delay smearing imaging. Speaker distance settings determine the timing relationship between channels. Sound travels at roughly 1 foot per millisecond, so if your receiver thinks your left speaker is 15 feet away when it's actually 10 feet, its delay delaying that channel's audio by 5 milliseconds. This timing error smears stereo imaging, makes dialogue sound phasey or hollow, and ruins the precise localization that makes surround sound work. Auto-calibration measures distances using test tones and listening for reflections. But it's not always accurate, especially in rooms with complex acoustics or unusual shapes. The measurements can be off by several feet, creating noticeable timing errors. The fix is manual verification. After running auto-calibration, grab a tape measure and physically measure the distance from each speaker to your main listening position. Compare these to what the receiver detected. If the receiver's measurements are within 6 inches of reality, you're probably fine. If they're off by a foot or more, manually correct them. This ensures all channels are time-aligned properly, so sounds arrive at your ears simultaneously. The improvement in imaging and dialogue clarity from correct timing is often dramatic, one of those changes where you immediately wonder how you lived with it wrong. Setting 6, Sound Modes Collapsing Immersion. AV receivers offer multiple sound modes with names like stereo, direct, cinema, stadium, virtual surround, and various proprietary modes. Each mode processes audio differently, and selecting the wrong mode for your content destroys the intended experience. The most common mistake is leaving the receiver on a default mode like auto or standard and never changing it based on what you're watching. For movies and TV shows with native surround soundtracks, you want the receiver in a mode that respects the original mix. Dolby Surround, Dietz Neural, X, or similar modes that decode the native format without adding artificial processing. For music in stereo, you might want direct or pure mode that bypasses processing entirely, or you might prefer a stereo upmixer that uses all your speakers. For old content without surround encoding, an upmixer can extract surprising spatial information. The key is active mode selection based on content. Don't leave it on auto and hope the receiver picks correctly. When you start a movie, check that you're in the right mode for that content's audio format. When you switch to music, change to an appropriate music mode. This conscious selection ensures you're hearing content as intended rather than through inappropriate processing that smears or artificially enhances it. Setting 7, Bitstream versus PCM Source Confusion. This setting isn't in your receiver, it's in your source devices like Blu-ray players, streaming boxes, and game consoles, but it affects your receiver's ability to decode advanced audio formats. The choice is between Bitstream and PCM output. Bitstream sends the encoded audio directly to your receiver for decoding. PCM means the source device decodes the audio and sends uncompressed PCM to the receiver. For formats like Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, you need Bitstream output. If your source is set to PCM, it decodes the audio itself and strips out the object-based metadata that makes Atmos work. Your receiver receives basic multi-channel PCM and can't render the three-dimensional effects. Even if your receiver displays Dolby Surround or an upmixer, you're not getting real Atmos. Check every source device you use. Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, game consoles, Blu-ray players, they all have audio output settings. Set them to Bitstream or Auto for best quality. This ensures advanced formats are passed through to your receiver for proper decoding. Your receiver's display should confirm when Atmos or DTX is active. If it doesn't, your source settings are wrong. Setting 8, Dialogue Enhancement Tools. The final setting that helps many people is dialogue enhancement or center channel adjustment. If you struggle to hear dialogue clearly and find yourself constantly adjusting volume or turning on subtitles, your center channel may be too quiet relative to other channels. This is especially common after auto-calibration sets levels that prioritize overall balance over dialogue clarity. Most receivers let you adjust individual channel levels. Go into level settings and increase your center channel by 2 to 3 decibels above the other channels. This makes dialogue more prominent without affecting music and effects as much. Some receivers also have dedicated dialogue enhancement modes that lift center channel frequencies specifically where speech lives. Use these sparingly, as excessive enhancement can make voices sound artificial, but moderate use dramatically improves intelligibility. Why these settings transform your system? Each of these settings individually improves some aspect of performance. Turning off eco mode restores power and dynamics. Proper calibration corrects room issues. Setting speakers to small with correct crossovers cleans up bass. Accurate distance settings fix timing. Appropriate sound modes preserve intent. Bitstream output enables advanced formats. Dialogue adjustment improves clarity. But together, these settings transform your system from disappointing to impressive. Bass tightens and hits with authority. Dialogue becomes crystal clear. Surround effects lock into precise positions. The soundstage opens up with proper imaging. Your receiver finally sounds like the powerful processor it's supposed to be, rather than a mediocre box making noise. Your AV receiver's sound quality isn't hidden, it's just locked behind settings that shipped configured for safety and compatibility rather than performance. Eco mode limits power. Wrong speaker sizes muddy bass. Bad crossovers strain speakers. Inaccurate distances smear timing. Wrong modes collapse immersion. PCM output strips advanced formats. Quiet center channels bury dialogue. Fix these settings and you unlock the performance you already paid for. This isn't about buying better equipment or expensive upgrades, it's about configuring the equipment you own to actually perform at its capability. These settings aren't glamorous, but they're the difference between a system that sounds expensive and one that only looks expensive. If this video showed you which settings were killing your sound quality and how to fix them for dramatically better performance, smash that like button and subscribe for more home theater truth. Drop a comment telling me which setting was wrong in your system and how much difference fixing it made. Let's help each other finally hear the audio quality we paid for. Thanks for watching and enjoy the hidden sound quality you're about to unlock.